All right, what's going on, guys? Rolandas here, back again with another exciting live stream, actually. So yeah, today's gonna be a little bit different live stream than we usually have. It's not gonna be Q&A, but it's a rather I decided just to go ahead and analyze all the oral minoxidil studies I've seen, and actually one of my subscribers, Crown Zach, thank you for that, by the way, send me over on my email address, and they're really interesting, and I was thinking, why not to do it just on the live, so we can discuss if you got any questions in the live chat right away. And also it saves me a ton of time, because editing videos is just it would be way too crazy, and I think, to be honest, it's even better in this way. Like we can actually go into and just check everything together. And yeah, of course, as always, if you got any questions, drop down in the chat. I will try to go back and forth to the chat once in a while to see and answer any of your questions. But yeah, mainly I'm going to be focusing on the studies. I'm just going to be looking at what they're looking at, what kind of results we can expect, side effects, etc. So should be interesting live stream. And yeah, let me know, by the way, how does it sound? How does it, how do you see everything, the quality of the picture, etc.? Is it, great, not that great? And yeah, the main point, I guess, is the sound. So I'm right now in the chat. What's up, Fire Up? How are you doing, buddy? Let's answer quickly a few of them. Can Norwood 6 Slick Bolt get a good amount of hair back using oral minoxidil? Possibly. Anecdotally, I've seen like cases like this, but again, if it's slick, like slick bolt, there's literally no hair. The hair is like very super miniaturized, and it's like transparent basically. The hair the anagen phase is pretty much non-existent. In this case, I seriously doubt anything like dramatic can happen. It can regrow quite a lot of hair, but they will not become like a super terminal thick hair that you can grow long all over the place. It's very unlikely. So I think if you're a slick bolt, the best option you can do actually is a transplant, because the transplant is focusing on what you lost already, as opposed to medication. They usually use to to try to keep as much as you have right now. Hey Crown Zach, how are you doing? You're not gonna be able to follow the stream. Oh, such a shame. Well, you can always go back and just re-watch this live stream. So that's another plus of this. By the way, I really appreciate that you send over some of your studies. By the way, Crown Zach is I think medical student, if I understand, and he has the access to full studies. So it was really interesting to read them through. It's not a lot, to be honest, and they're not like a high quality studies like Kevin Mann is expecting, but nonetheless it's still interesting to look at it. Let's see on some other. Wait, let me grab some water, because by the way, guys, if you feel like I'm falling asleep while I'm talking, I might be, because I'm really tired, to be honest, but live stream cannot postpone it. So yeah, it's very important. Do you think hypertrichosis effect of oral minoxidil stop after several months, or is there possibility to grow 10 centimeter back or nose hair because of oral minoxidil lengthen the anagen phase? Thanks. I doubt the hypertrichosis will go away if you get it. It's very likely it will stay there with you as long as you're going to be taking medication. However, I seriously doubt you're going to be able to grow 10 centimeter long back hair or nose hair. Definitely doubt it. Like, even if it's promoting anagen phase, it's not gonna like double or triple the anagen phase. For like a great example, eyelashes, their anagen phase is like the length of the anagen phase is about 1 month, 30 days, and after that it falls down and starts to grow again. So that's basically where most people that are started using oral minoxidil, they see like the immediate improvement. Basically in the first month or two, they see straight away the eyelashes growing longer, because anagen phase is like quickly replenishes, but it doesn't mean you're gonna extend it like twice or triple, so they're not gonna be able to grow this long. So yeah, I would really not worry too much about it. So yeah, it's the main benefit is for scalp hair, because scalp hair has like a really long anagen phase between 2 and 7 years. So even if you're extending by like 5% or 10%, it can be really substantial. So yeah. Сергей, what's up, Rolandas, my boy? Как дела, Сергей? Приятно тебя видеть. Please, oral, how I can find it. Alright, so oral minoxidil. You can find it through dermatologists, trichologists, and hair transplant doctors, and also in certain countries like USA, you can get it privately, like a compounded. So I'm currently still doing the list of in the UK where you can get it. But again, it's not going to be like a super big list. It's really tough to find, to be honest, who can prescribe, but more and more dermatologists are going on board to prescribe it. So I would suggest to have, if you're in wherever you are in the world, just first of all go through all the hair transplant surgeons in your country or in your area and send them an email and ask them if they are able to prescribe it. That's it. Don't book any consultations, don't buy any of their stuff, just point blank ask these questions. That's it. The same, you can do exactly the same for dermatologists and trichologists in your area. Email them, don't book any consultation, just point blank ask them, and you're gonna get your answer. It might be tough to find, but I think it's possible. And yeah, don't buy online from shady websites. I don't really trust them. You're Rolandas. What's your name? Rolandas is your surname. No, Rolandas is my name, actually. I know it sounds weird, Mr. Rolandas. It should be normally surname, but this is my name. And I decided to name it like that. Don't ask me why. It's, yeah. Alright. I guess let's jump straight away because, yeah, let's not waste any more time. So I wanted to start from this... from this little interesting study. Let's go back. So I've got a couple of papers, and I that basically going in depth what they're doing, how they analyze and everything. It's most of the research basically is coming from like privately from dermatologists or trichologists or some hair transplant surgeons, etc. And they normally are prescribing for their patients, not for the big amount, but like 100 patients or 50 patients only, even less, sometimes like in 1 or 2 or 3 patients only. And they documenting it and they sharing with different dermatologists, and some of the studies they're just putting together a lot of this 10, 20, 30, 50 reports, and going through them and looking at basically all the results and side effects, etc. So yeah, unfortunately there is no any like a proper double-blind randomized placebo control group study, like again, like I mentioned before, Kevin Mann really wants to see. That's why, by the way, he really doesn't recommend it. But I don't believe this kind of study will ever happen with oral minoxidil, because it's not patent. I mean, patent is already expired long time ago, so there is really no point of conducting such big studies. It's gonna cost too much money, and like, who's gonna pay for it? So I think we just need to work with whatever information we got and be basically careful. So that's what we're gonna do right now. Let's dive into this one, I guess. All right, so in short, this was a 3-year study. It's between 2016 and 2019 mainly in Canada, from different dermatologists who were prescribing low-dose oral minoxidil to their patients. So total patients were 74. So it was again different, dermatologists. The data was gathered together. Total was 74 people, 15 men and 59 women. Disclaimer, by the way, again, most of this study is going to be not directly related to male pattern baldness, and it's sad that, because that's what we want. But to be honest, in general, minoxidil works in the same way for everyone. It's not like a finasteride that targets DHT through 5-alpha reductase. So it's like the minoxidil works in the same way for female and male. So we can kind of assume the effectiveness and side effects as well. So yeah, there you go. So the study suggests that low dose of oral minoxidil requires decreased follicular enzymatic activity compared with its topical form. And I found this sentence very interesting. And give me uno secundo. I found some more actual information on this subject. Where was it? so they're saying that basically the enzymatic activity in the follicles of the sulfur transferase enzyme, it's not as easy to express it with the topical version compared to oral. So, and they're trying to say that with the oral minoxidil you would need in general lower dose to reach the same enzymatic activity, and basically it will be more like efficacious, so called. And I found here some more info on this. Hold on, let me see, where was it? So sulfotransferase are xenophobic metabolizing enzymes expressed in many tissues with the highest expression found in the human liver. Basically in the human liver. That's why majority of people are saying that oral minoxidil works better, because it goes through the liver, and that's where is the most enzymatic activity. So you go, and then it works basically on the scalp, but again, because it goes through the liver, it works all over the body. And yeah, hair follicles, outer root sheath cells are also express sulfotransferase, and sulfotransferase activity predicts topical minoxidil therapeutic response. So we already know, I think, if you're like a really hardcore learners like myself, you already know that like people have certain amount of sulfotransferase enzymes in their scalp, so not for everyone topical minoxidil gonna work, or for some people they would require a higher dosage percentage wise of topical minoxidil in order for it to work. And by the way, I've seen some studies I share with you guys today as well that shows that the higher concentration actually works for those non-responders. But yeah, nonetheless, the clinical response of topical minoxidil is variable. Several strategies have been previously explored to overcome lack of response to 5% topical minoxidil secondary to low sulfotransferase activity. Use of higher concentrations of topical minoxidil, it's effective in up to 60% of non-responders. So you've probably seen in some websites selling 10% or 15% of minoxidil, topical minoxidil. And if you are a non-responder, if you don't really see much improvement of applying topically after like at least 6 months, best like after a year, you might consider actually increasing the dosage. Not necessarily jump with the tretinoin cream or microneedling, but just to increase the the percentage. But also the best part is microneedling. It's like it's been shown, proven anecdotally, of course, many times, that is just increasing the enzymatic activity so much more than absorption as well, that it just works so much better. So if you're a non-responder with just topical minoxidil, worth adding microneedling, but also worth looking at higher concentrations. We also recently conducted a head-to-head trial comparing 1 milligram of daily oral minoxidil once daily to 5% topical once daily in treatment of female pattern hair loss. And maybe some of you heard, it's like that's the only study where they actually compared topical to oral in terms of efficacy, and it was in females only, and it was only 1 milligram of oral compared to 5% topical, and it was pretty much the same. All the oral had a little bit better response rate, so in terms of results it was almost the same, but more women responded to oral minoxidil compared to topical. And basically that's what they are arguing here as well. As oral minoxidil is extensively metabolized by the liver, we sought to determine whether liver or sulfotransferase are primarily responsible for oral minoxidil bioactivation and efficacy in the treatment of female pattern hair loss. We also saw the development and predictive biomarker for oral minoxidil therapeutics response in female pattern hair loss. Again, they're mainly talking here about the female pattern hair loss, but nonetheless, I think we at least can work with this data. Women with low sulfotransferase activity had less hair regrowth compared to women with the high sulfotransferase enzymatic activity. There you go, yeah, so we already established that much. This demonstrates that a lower follicular enzymatic activity threshold is required for bioactivation of oral minoxidil compared to topical minoxidil. This might be due to a contribution of liver and platelets on oral minoxidil conversion and or higher follicular accumulation of minoxidil. So yeah, I found it like really interesting, basically, that it's like there is a way to actually prove that oral minoxidil works much better than the topical, and not necessarily for the ones that are already responding. They're like a hyper responders to topical minoxidil, and most likely they will not probably even see a huge difference if they switch to oral, although oral minoxidil is highly dependable on the dosage. So again, some people have been taking up to like 10 milligrams per day, which is pretty high, to be honest, and they've seen really great, you know, results after being on topical for like a very long time. And yeah, but going back to the first study, because sorry, it's gonna be just going back and forth like that, but yeah, it's a lot of information. So yeah, reports documented its successful use in dermatology adaptation in North America has been low. It is unclear whether this is due to concern about patient safety or lack of established oral minoxidil dosing for hair loss. And I would speculate myself why most of the, like, why it's not mainstream oral minoxidil for, because first of all, it's been there a long time ago, and they developed topical version to kind of, you know, go around the side effects, which is the most common, like a hypertrichosis. But nobody actually really studied well the oral minoxidil in a lower doses, because the normal dose for hypotension is between 10 and 40 milligrams per day. Whilst for hair loss right now, we're slowly discovering even as low as like 2.5 or 5 milligram or even 1 milligram can work really well for hair loss, while drastically minimizing the, you know, potential, you know, side effects and even severe side effects, you know, for the heart, for example. And yeah, in this particular study was, how many was 74 people, 15 men and 59 women, and there were various types of hair loss. So 23 women had androgenic alopecia and 9 men had as well. Multiple scalp diagnosis, they had like things like lichen planopilaris, telogen effluvium, and chemotherapy and stuff like that. But the most common basically was androgenic alopecia. So yeah, and like I said, it works in the most cases. So but even in they were assessing like things like traction alopecia, where the hair loss becomes from things like, you know, having in a ponytail. Also, you know, mainly it's for women, but some men are keeping ponytails as well, like really tight, and it, you know, it creates like a scarring basically. It's so-called tractional alopecia, and the hair is not growing in that area. And actually with minoxidil, people can see some improvement as well. So yeah, and yeah, no patients who basically continued throughout the study, by the way, all of the studies were 6 months, continued low dose of oral minoxidil reported new cardiac diagnosis or morbidity, including pericardial effusion and pericarditis. I mark this because it's, I think, like one of the key, this is one of the most severe side effects that everyone is scared about. Oh, I don't want to die. And of course, this study, again, it's just, you know, like a lot of little tiny studies put together, and it's very small sample size, 74 people. But we, like I said, we need to work with what we got. If it's 74 people, nobody had it, let's take it from there. Of course, we need to be cautious. We need to go and look for better studies, for more people. But if there is so far no issue, you know, most probably it will not be, because, you know, compared to the big ones. But again, just keep in mind. Yeah, so in this study, are they talking here about efficacy? They've been using 1.25 milligram dose for 3 months, and the follow-up after 3 months they've been using 2.5 milligram dose. Yeah, I think they're not really reporting here not properly reporting the efficacy. The results from retrospect is the increased scalp hair growth and decreased hair shedding, but that's like, you know, very abstract. So yeah, oh, spilled water on my mouse, very nice. So yeah, this was interesting for me to find out that actually there is a way to find out if you're going to be a responder or non-responder for topical minoxidil. And it's great to know that oral minoxidil is actually more efficacious for, at least for those who are non-responders, because that's another like a main point that a lot of people are debating. Oh, I'm just gonna start, you know, topical. Why do we need oral? And you know, it's bullshit, whatnot. So yeah, but again, it's just another option. Another study. A systematic safety of low-dose oral minoxidil treatment for hair loss, systematic review, and pooled analysis of individual patient data. So again, quite a few, you know, dermatologists, mainly Spanish, and this is the main one, the most, you know, famous guy like Juan Jimenez, Sergiovano. It's a really interesting study. And yeah, so the way they conducted it was again the same. They searched through different, you know, platforms like PubMed and Embase, and they found a lot, over 100 different studies, and they put together after they like eliminated, you know, people that were on different treatments or different other treatments, or they had like some other issues, whatnot, and they basically put together only 14 studies that included 442 patients. So again, already much more. And oral minoxidil was used at the doses ranging between 0.25 milligram and 5 milligram per day for 8 different types of alopecia. So again, trying to treat basically everything. Hypertrichosis was observed in 24% of patients. Pedal edema was observed in 2% and was also associated with higher doses of oral minoxidil. And higher doses, they usually talking about 5 milligram and even sometimes 2.5 milligram. Postural hypotension and heart rate alterations occurred only in 1.1% and 1.3% of the patients respectively. For those of you who doesn't know, postural hypotension is basically like overall generally low blood pressure, and especially you can feel it, let's say if you're sitting down or laying down and you like quickly stand up and you're gonna feel a little bit dizzy and everything. So this is one of the signs that you got like a low blood pressure. So yeah, but on oral minoxidil, and we know oral minoxidil is a blood pressure medication, it's lowering your blood pressure. So for some people it might lower too much, so they can experience such things. But again, only 1.1% had it, so it's really, really low. Efficacy of oral minoxidil could not be analyzed due to heterogeneous studies. However, 4 studies using oral minoxidil for androgenic alopecia reported a clinical response in 70 to 100% of patients. Low dose of oral minoxidil is safe and well-tolerated treatment for hair loss, presenting a lower adverse effect than standard doses. And yeah, we're not going to be reading everything, but some of the more key points. Oral minoxidil is only approved for the treatment of hypertension, with standard doses ranging between 10 and 40 milligrams daily, and as going up to 100 milligrams per day, as much as that, imagine. And we are scared here. Various adverse effects are described at these doses, including hypertrichosis, fluid retention, EKG alterations, or pleural effusion, which prevent the use of this drug among dermatologists for treatment of hair loss. A recent study suggests that given orally, minoxidil would be converted also by liver and platelet sulfotransferase and might reach a higher follicular accumulation. We already discussed this in a previous one, that it actually does. So, and that's the main benefit of it. Of these studies, 4 were case reports, 7 were case series, 2 were prospective cohort studies, and only 1 was a randomized clinical trial. So like I said, it's pretty low quality like studies, some of them like observational and everything, done like with a few patients by private dermatologists. It's not really something serious, but like I mentioned before, it's very unlikely that anyone gonna be actually, you know, performing a proper studies on it, like I mentioned before. So yeah, let's just work with what we got. Oral minoxidil was used as a therapy for 8 different hair diseases. Obviously, the main condition was female androgenic alopecia, with the 4 studies, 286 patients, followed by male androgenic alopecia, 98 patients, and chronic telogen fluvium and other conditions, small series, like again 1-2 patients. There was alopecia areata, traction alopecia, frontal fibrosis alopecia, and stuff like that. So yeah, but this was really, really small cases. 9 studies used oral minoxidil in monotherapy in 140 patients, whereas 5 studies used oral minoxidil in monotherapy or as an additional treatment in 302 patients. Doses of oral minoxidil range between 0.25 and 5 milligram, and the most used dose were 0.25 and 1 milligram, followed by 0.5 and 5 milligrams. So because there was most women in most of the studies, that's why they women, they usually like using lower doses from 0.25 up to 1 milligram, and for males they usually using between 1 milligram, 1.25 milligram up all the way up to 5 milligram. So again, still we collecting data basically and looking what's the best, but so far it's pretty understandable already that the higher the dose, the better efficacy you can expect, but also more types of side effects. Although according to some studies, I think maybe in this one was written that between 2.5 milligram and 5 milligram of oral minoxidil there was no statistically significant difference in terms of overall side effects. So yeah, that's interesting takeaway. All studies used oral minoxidil for a minimum of 6 months, and the main outcomes of studies were improvement of hair density and a reduction of hair shedding. A high rate of improvement, both overall and marked, was seen in studies with a dose of 5 milligram compared to those with 1 milligram or less. Like I said, it's really dose dependent actually, and I'm pretty sure if someone would do like a study on 10 milligram, it would be even better. But again, then side effects are basically potential side effects can be increased. The main adverse effects discussed were hypertrichosis, as always, lower limb or pedal edema, a variation in blood pressure, postural hypotension or dizziness, and tachycardia or EKG changes. Increase in hair shedding was not discussed in most studies, and I found it interesting why most studies are not discussing. There was, I think, only one study where they were looking at specifically hair shedding when people started using the drug, and they notice it increased hair shedding. And to my surprise, when I read, there was only one patient out of maybe 40 or 50 that reported increase, a severe hair shedding. And we all know when we're starting topical minoxidil, we experience a lot of hair shedding pretty much all the time. It happens for everyone. But with oral minoxidil, again, the studies are really low quality for to properly assess, and sample size is not big enough. But nonetheless, I found it interesting that only one patient out of 30 or 40 or something like that experienced severe shedding basically. And for me personally, I didn't notice anything as well. Of course, for me might be the reason because my hair was super short, pretty much bust to zero after my surgery, so it could be difficult to understand. But also I read on again online that some people, they saying they didn't experience anything or much as well. So yeah, I think it was interesting to basically to say this. And yeah, there was 14 studies, like I said, some of them for male allergic alopecia, 25 males, 41 males, 30 males, 52 males. So like I said, really small studies. And the doses, yeah, in different studies were between 0.25, as you can see here only. Let's have a look actually. Oral minoxidil, 0.25 milligram daily for 6 months, 24 weeks, in 25 males. 40 to 60% of patients had improvement or stabilization of hair loss, which is, to be honest, it's pretty good. And yeah, side effects, hypertrichosis, of course, 20%, pedal edema, hair shedding. Oh, hair shedding, that's the one. 4 people. This is probably some different study that I missed. Anyways, oh, there you go. I looked at this one, hair shedding 1. I missed this one. Anyway, still compared, 16%. Here was only 2.4%, 41 male, and it was a higher doses. 5 milligram, 31 people, and 10 milligram, 2.5 milligram for 10 people. Again, between 6 and 12 months. 90% of people had clinical improvement, which was pretty great, and 26.8% had marked. Marked improvement is usually when they're lowering their a Norwood scale by 1 at least. So if you've been Norwood 5 and you started using this medication, it dropped 1 Norwood level to 4, marked improvement, which is, to be honest, pretty great. And as always, again, adverse effect, hypertrichosis, 24% of people, pedal edema 4.8, hair shedding, and blood pressure not discussed. Postural hypotension, 1%. Excuse me. There you go. Another study, 30 people, 5 milligram. 100% of people had clinical improvement and 43.3% had marked improvement. So almost half of the people on 5 milligram per day for 6 months dropped 1 Norwood. Like, to me, of course, again, it's only 30 people, but just the numbers itself, pretty great. You know, like in 6 months, from Norwood 3 to Norwood 2, from Norwood 6 to Norwood 5. I don't know how, if it's actually that possible. And we need to check what kind of Norwood levels were there, but it's pretty significant. And as you can see, in Oral Minoxidil 5% group of people that were taking, 93% of people had hypertrichosis. So very high risk. And was there is 1%. Oh, that was the female study. So yeah, the higher the dose, the more chances of hypertrichosis. And I think personally what I noticed, 2.5 milligram is kind of like a gold kind of, you know, what's the word now? The best dose to basically take it, because it's like in the middle between, you know, potential side effects and efficacy. That's why personally I'm staying on 2.5 milligram. And yeah, they're basically showing a lot of, you know, female studies and everything. And hypertrichosis, speaking of which, a great difference in hypertrichosis rate was observed between studies ranging from 4% of patients with 0.25 milligram to 93% with 5 milligram. After data synthesis and pooled analysis, hypertrichosis was observed in 24% of the patients treated with oral minoxidil. The rate of hypertrichosis was associated with the dose of oral minoxidil received, ranging from 6.7% of patients receiving 0.25 to 56% of patients receiving 5%. 5 milligrams. So yeah, from all the studies, as an average, if you're taking 5 milligram of oral minoxidil per day, you got a roughly 56% chance to, you know, get hypertrichosis. Lower limb edema or pedal edema was reported in 6 studies in total of 9 patients. After pooled analysis, this occurred in 2% of all patients treated with oral minoxidil. More than half of these patients were taking a dose of 5 milligram. So again, the same pedal edema. There was an association between the dose of oral minoxidil and the appearance of pedal edema. Comparing all those subgroups, the only statistical significant value was found for dose of 5 milligrams. So again, if you're on a lower dose, 1.25 or 2.5, chances are you're not gonna have pedal edema. Moving on, blood pressure. Blood pressure was checked or discussed in 6 studies. 3 of them reported no variation of mean blood pressure, whereas 3 studies reported a slight reduction of systolic and diastolic blood pressure. So again, that's why it's important. That's why I was checking my blood pressure, just to make sure it's not dropping too low, because then you're gonna have, you know, dizziness and all this stuff. It's really not great. And it's, of course, it's best to go to actual doctor and, you know, keep being monitored with him. EKG, one study observed a slight increase in mean heart rate by 5 beats per minute after 6 months of use of oral minoxidil, and another reported EKG alterations mainly in T-wave in 3 patients. So yeah, your heart rate might go up, but again, it was really like just one study. It's like slight increase. 2 studies reported temporary increased hair shedding after initiation of oral minoxidil of the patients, and 1 study reported intense hair shedding in 1 patient with 5 milligram. Only 1 study compared oral with topical minoxidil treatment in female androgenetic alopecia and found clinical improvement in 70% of women with oral minoxidil and with oral minoxidil 1 milligram compared to 46% of women with topical minoxidil 5%. So 46% of women had success with topical, but some of them were non-responders, and obviously these women could respond better with oral. So like we established before already, if you're non-responder, oral minoxidil gonna be definitely great option. Standard doses of treatment of hypertension are between 10 and 40 milligrams per day, and oral minoxidil has several adverse effects to be considered. according to the product monograph, hypertrichosis may occur in about 80% of patients and usually develops within 3 to 6 weeks after starting the treatment. However, with low dose of, so yeah, just keep in mind, 3 to 6 weeks, hypertrichosis in 80% of people, but this is in a standard, doses between 10 and 40 milligrams. But in a low dose of oral minoxidil, it was observed only in 24% in general of patients, and it was usually mild and well tolerated, and no patients discontinued the treatment due to this particular adverse effect. And most frequent location were the temples, which is this area that I basically got a little bit. Where we are, temples, sideburns, I missed it, there you go, sideburns and upper lip. So again, mainly it's a problem for women, to be honest, and yeah, it's not really that much. Temporary edema is described in up to 7% of patients with antihypertensive doses compared to 2% with low dose of oral minoxidil. It usually occurs along with other predisposing factors such as prolonged standing or hot weather, but it may be responsible for discontinuation of the treatment. EKG changes occur in approximately 60% of patients with standard doses of oral minoxidil and mainly in T-wave. They are asymptomatic and usually disappear despite continuation of the treatment. So if you're taking normal dose 10 to 40 milligram of oral minoxidil per day, 60% of chance that you're gonna have some EKG alterations with your heart rate. But even if you just continue using the drug, you're gonna go back to normal. So it's kind of like basically your heart is adapting. There is no sufficient data to evaluate these changes with low dose of oral minoxidil since only one study performed EKG. So yeah, we don't know, but at least it's reassuring knowing that it should, kind of disappear and go back to normal. So yeah, so this study with oral minoxidil 2.5 and 5 milligram in healthy volunteers found that this dose have minimal effect on blood pressure in normotensive individuals. So if you're considered a healthy human being according to your doctor, yeah, there should be a minimal effect on your blood pressure. However, both EKG changes and the risk of hypotension needs to be considered before starting oral minoxidil. A thorough patient history should be recorded regarding previous or past alteration in EKG, blood pressure, or any cardiovascular disorders, and even a screening by a cardiologist should be considered in certain cases. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a bad idea to self-medicate with oral minoxidil, like buy online and just start. Yeah, whatever, I think it's great because I'm done with topical. You really have to think carefully because before starting it, even at the low doses, even like this study, we don't really have much data, and it's still possible you can, if you have some issues with your heart, it might mess up more. If you like a healthy, should be fine, but again, it's better be safe than sorry. And yeah, so I found this study really interesting, and the next one is gonna be it's gonna be even more interesting. Some of you guys probably already seen it. Another YouTuber called Kevin Mann. This is basically one of the most recent studies. Came in 2021, and it accumulated like the whole. They took data from a lot of again studies, and altogether had 1,404 patients. Yeah, taking oral minoxidil, and yeah, this is the most recent study, and. You know what, I'm not going to be going too much into this detail. I would suggest to go ahead and check the Kevin Mann's this video. It's a pretty long video, like 20 or something minutes, but he's going really great detail into it. And I just want to add a couple of things. He's really properly analyzing the study, and he's not a fan. He's criticizing it because it's just like a mostly retrospective observational studies. It's not like I said, it's not like a randomized double-blind placebo control group study. And the reason, like already explained before, there is no incentive to make this proper, like a gold standard studies to evaluate effectiveness, side effects, to compare it to proper like oral version to topical properly. And that's why, for example, Kevin Mann is not a fan of oral minoxidil. For him, it's not enough data, and if someone gonna show him this data, then maybe he's gonna change his mind. But personally, like I said, I don't believe this kind of data will ever emerge, and we just need to work with what we got. You know, proceed with caution, but, you know, see what we have. And also another thing that I wanted to mention before you go and watch that video, that basically Kevin Mann's main point is that there is like a black box label, you know, in this on the Oral Minoxidil saying that you can die from this medication, and it's true because there can be you know, complications like pericarditis and you know, like pericardial effusion that is accumulating liquid around your heart and basically can crush it, you know. So it's not a good thing by the sound of it, obviously. But we need to remember that this is the recommendation for the doses between 10 and 40 milligrams per day. So it's pretty high dose. But since we're taking low dose, and there is no, I didn't, in any of the studies that I checked, I couldn't find any evidence that this ever happened. So again, and Kevin Mann's point is that he said, well, in none of these studies happened. Oh, that's great, nobody died. But, you know, and he's saying, but it still can happen because the studies are not perfect and it's really not big amount of people. But in my opinion, in my view, like, okay, so we know that in 1,400 people, it didn't happen. So like, we need to proceed with caution. We know that this can happen, but so far in this amount of people didn't happen. So what are the chances that in another 1,400 people gonna happen? You know what I mean? So it's like, you need to kind of take different perspectives. So we need to find out. Of course, there is no evidence, and I completely agree with majority of his points, to be honest. So that's why I'm just referring to the video, that the quality of the study in general is not the best. But yeah, like I said, just we need to work with what we got. Right, so let's go to the chat quickly and have a look, because it's been talking crazy, and I bet there is a lot of messages. Oh yes, it is. Let's see. Don't you think it's hilarious that Kevin Mann is afraid of the side effects of oral minoxidil but not towards finasteride? Well, I just explained, like, literally. This comment was a long time ago. Yeah, I mean, he's afraid of something that could possibly happen because it says on the box, but again, it says for the higher doses, and we know that the lower the dose you're taking for oral minoxidil, every other side effect, potential side effect, is either dramatically decreasing the potential outcome of it, or it's non-existent with the lower dose. Of course, again, we don't know for sure. There is no like tens of thousands of people tested, but so far there is no evidence that it can happen. There is no evidence that it cannot happen as well. So it's like a, you know, double-sided coin. So yeah, I think he's right to be on a cautious side. And I always say as well, if you didn't try topical, you have to absolutely just go first, try topical. Try with derma rolling, you know, with microneedling, and see how it goes. For most people, it's going to be fine. And if you really want to start oral minoxidil, you just have to be extremely careful and just, you know, really think hard before starting, and don't just jump into it. It's you know, speak to a doctor about it. It's you know, it's better, like I said, better be safe than sorry. Yeah, there you go. Kevin Mann simply on the side of prudence. Anyways, hair guard. Hair guard, this is the classic between this. Anyways, don't want to go into it. Do we have any actually questions? Just guys are talking. Guys, what is the better, oral or topical? Fury. So it's like I said, I mean, in my personal, we don't have a conclusive like evidence that oral is better than topical, but we have some data saying that oral works better than topical for some individuals that don't have enough enzymatic activity on the scalp. And we have only one study comparing for women, comparing 1 milligram of oral minoxidil compared to 5% topical minoxidil, and it said again the same, that the results were roughly similar, but only more women responded to oral. So again, we already established that, but we don't know if you're taking 2.5 milligram or if you're taking 5 milligram, if you would experience more, you know, regrowth for stabilization. So I think yes, like again, from all of the evidence, but there is no like 100%, you know, answer to that. That's my take, by the way. Don't quote me on this. It's just my opinion, what I, you know, from what I read. From my experience, topical is okay, but if you're prone to scalp dryness after a while, it's going to be a nightmare. I've been on oral for 5 months and it's mad effective. Well, great for you, my man. Oral Minoxidil saved my life more than Finasteride. Personally, I've only received positive side effects for Oral Minoxidil, but I can't say that you will. That's right. What's your age? Okay, Danish, my age. I'm actually 30. I turned 30 years old yesterday, so yeah, feel free to wish me happy birthday. Belated a little bit. Right. What brand of oral minoxidil do you take? I'm using Lonitin brand, the original brand that actually created. I'm all about original brands. A brand horse, like someone calls. Fina. Happy birthday. Oh, thank you very much. Woo! All right. Let's move on. I got actually a couple more, so which are interesting. Let's move on. What do we have here? This is a small study, but interesting fact. So here were 32 men. They've been taking 1.25 milligram per day of oral minoxidil, and their Norwood level between their Norwood level was between Norwood 3 and Norwood 5. So not that big range, but it's in the middle of the like kind of where majority of people right now are, especially younger people. So they were taking oral minoxidil 1.21 milligram per day for 6 months, and yeah, there was some great efficacy. Let's see. So 32 men, neurogenital alopecia, 1.25. Patients with severe hypertension, moderate hypertension, antihypertensive therapy, cardiovascular dysfunction, history of minoxidil hypersensitivity, or receiving treatment with any other formulation of minoxidil dihydrogenase. Anyways, a lot of different people were excluded from the study, so it was purely 32 men that were on nothing, but they were really healthy. So always keep in mind one thing, that most of the studies are usually done on people that are like 100% healthy, that they don't have any heart disease or anything, they have no complications at all, they are absolutely fine. So which means, that's what I'm saying, you need to assess by your situation. You can, like, if you have some issues with your heart, you should not really put yourself into this kind of statistic, because it's not really going to be relevant. And yeah, so overall improvement was labeled marked if they had at least 1 grade of improvement in Norwood Hamilton scale, and appreciable new hair growth not amounting to marked response was labeled as a mild improvement. And it's one of the pictures here, BC. So picture B is the baseline scalp clinical photography done basically of this guy, is a Norwood 5, and on picture C it's a significant improvement. According to them, he went from Norwood 5 to Norwood 3 in just 6 months by taking oral minoxidil 1.25 milligram a day. So the dose is really not that high. In 6 months, from Norwood 5 to Norwood 3. Of course, I seriously doubt it's a proper Norwood 3, and the hair is a little bit longer and it's covering more, but to be honest, even visually, like his crown overall kind of got like smaller a little bit. His lateral humps, this one was pretty strong, but the other one was like pretty much gone, and like it got some great you know, thickening, so much more new hair. His kind of crown gets shape, and the hair that were like severely miniaturized got much darker and thicker mid scalp, and even in the hairline. You know what's funny, most of the studies, they're saying that oral minoxidil as well as topical works best in the crown, but it actually works pretty good in the hairline as well. Here is pretty great case. Again, the picture is pretty bad, I'll be honest, but it looks like he pretty much regrew the hairline, because here was almost nothing in there. And what the best part for me, what what I found, that actually, let's go back. At 24 weeks, reveals statistically significant improvement over the baseline for all points in 25 out of 32 patients. So almost 80% of people had, significant improvement, with maximum improvement at the vertex point for both parameters. And overall, 48% improvement in hair density and increments of average hair caliber per unit excuse me, hair shaft diameter from 50 microns. So listen carefully. As an average, people increase their hair shaft diameter from 50 microns to 68. And if you're not familiar with the microns, this is freaking huge. I'll give us an example. My donor area, the thickest, strongest hair in my donor area are between 50 and 51 micron. So my hair caliber is super thin, really thin. These guys, their miniaturized hair was 50 micron. Their miniaturized hair was as thick as my thick terminal hair. And with Oral Minoxidil, just 1.25 milligram in 6 months, from 50 microns all the way to 68, which is average still, but almost thick. It's considered almost thick. It's huge improvement. It's like, I'm really jealous, to be honest. So it just, but again, it only works for me. For example, it's not gonna happen because my destiny, I'm like, it's my hair follicles are programmed to be 50 microns. That's it. I cannot increase it. But if it's severely miniaturized, like if you got the hair is miniaturizing and got thinner and lighter and almost transparent, that's when Oral Minoxidil actually starts to work really well. And yeah, it's a pretty huge difference, to be honest. So my mind was properly blown when I saw it. All right. Let's jump to another one. Got a couple more here. Actually got much more, but I just don't really have time to go through every single study. But I hope you appreciate the effort nonetheless. All right, moving on. So, it's cutting here a little bit. Anyways, what we have here, 41 men on 2.5 milligram, 10 patients, and 5 milligram, 31 patients. So I think this study was included in the one that I mentioned before, this where they had 400 something patients. And just this study is like a bit closer. So 2.5 milligram, 10 people, 5 milligram, 16 people, 31, sorry, people. So most of the patients were men with androgenic alopecia. Most of them were using actually a higher dose of 5 milligrams. So that's interesting to have a look. And all those in the subgroup of 16 patients receiving Oral Minoxidil as a monotherapy presented. So yeah, I forgot to mention, not everyone had, so some people have been using Oral Minoxidil in conjunction with something else like Dutasteride, Finasteride, or PRP or whatever it is. So, but what's important, what's for me interesting personally, it's 16 people, is the one that they use only Minoxidil, Oral Minoxidil as a monotherapy, nothing else, no Finasteride, no Dutasteride, nothing else. And 16 patients received monotherapy, presented clinical improvement with 6 patients, 37.5% showing marked improvement. So marked improvement means they at least 1 node level down just with Oral Minoxidil in 6 months. So this is great. Adverse effects were detected in 12 people, hypertrichosis in 10 patients, lower lymphedema in 2 patients, and shedding in 1 patient. So in percentage wise, is again 2%, 4%, 24, 29%. All of the adverse effects were mild and very well tolerated. Only 1 patient discontinued the treatment because of the pedal edema. These adverse effects appeared with the dose of 5% daily, except in 2 patients with slight hypertrichosis and 1 patient with shedding of 2.5 milligram. So yeah, shedding, it seems like it can happen at any dose. And some nice picture here. Androgenic alopecia grade 2, although I would say it's a bit more, because it's like there is general thinning through mid-scalp happening. Anyways, 28 years old male. And yeah, there you go. In 3 months of 5 milligram per day. So if you got this kind of, let me actually zoom in so you're gonna see better. If you got this kind of thinning, so basically what's happening, it's not a bald spot, but there is a huge amount of like miniaturized hair basically in that area and all over mid scalp. Man, 5 milligram a day in just 3 months, no problems at all. Man, this is incredible. This is crazy. That's why I think yeah, this is the reason why most of the like hair transplant surgeons, they just straight away recommending 5 milligram. They not, you know, they not playing around with 1.25 or 2.5 straight away. Take 5 milligram and, you know, you're gonna be done with it. So yeah, this was really interesting. And let me go back to the chat. By the way, guys, like this video. I see 25 likes, which is great. 29 people watching, 4 more likes missing. Being really cheeky here. What shampoo do I use? Oh, I don't use any specific DHT bullshit blocking shampoos. Man, I'm just using anything I find in the grocery store that smells great and I feel it's good for me. That's it. Happy birthday, bro. And like one sentence. Happy birthday, bro. Any side effects of Finasteride or Minoxidil? No. I've been on 1 milligram of Finasteride a day for over 2 years. Don't have any side effects. Minoxidil, probably hypertrichosis. I mentioned in my previous Oral Minoxidil update video that I've got very slight here in between my eyebrows and temple peaks. Like there's a few extra hairs growing. And it's not like new hairs, but they were like a really thin, like a, you know, like transparent almost hair, and they just got a bit darker because their anagen phase extended to the point that they get a little bit more color, so they're more visible. But again, it's like, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 hairs, and just plug them out and that's it, no problem. So yeah, that's the only thing, you know, really nothing else. I'm not sure about bloating. I haven't noticed if I'm like bloated, if I got any like a water retention or anything. I'm also using creatine, which is when I'm going to the gym, which is actually proven to, you know, to keep the water inside. So I was actually worried about it, minoxidil and creatine, and my body might actually keep a lot of water, but I didn't notice anything really that bad. So yeah. I'm 18, I'm taking Biotin tablets, 10,000 milligram for 6 months, and now my scalp produces a lot of sebum. So what should I do? Should I stop taking Biotin tablets? To be honest, I seriously doubt that you have Biotin deficiency. And the only time when you need to take Biotin tablets if you got Biotin deficiency. But again, if you're eating a relatively normal food, if you're not living in a like a third world country, if you're eating, relatively speaking, normal food, then chances are you don't have a Biotin deficiency, you know. And if you think you might have, go to see a doctor, do some, you know, blood test and see. But again, chances are it's super rare, to be honest. And yeah, other than that, it's not gonna do anything. You're just gonna be, you know, peeing in the toilet neon color because it's a B group vitamin. That's it. Mine basically gonna flush down the toilet. And yeah, you said you got hair thinning and hair fall. So first of all, go ahead, check, go see dermatologist or trichologist and speak to them. They likely gonna prescribe you minoxidil. And because you're 18, maybe not Finasteride, maybe not yes. Although I know some people are taking Finasteride or even dutasteride from 18, and it's absolutely fine. So just go ahead, check with them. That's you know if it's androgenetic alopecia, you might have like a some things like alopecia areata, which again, very unlikely. Minoxidil cured his gray hair. Fired up. Are you talking about who? About me? I don't know. I recently noticed a lot of gray hair, especially in my donor, but I noticed it after my second transplant. So I feel like the transplant itself had some impact into it. I have no proof for that, so I cannot I cannot say for sure. Has anyone ever used oral and topical minoxidil at the same time? I've seen a lot of people, again, anecdotally on forums online, they're using both together. Let's say oral minoxidil in the morning and you know, topical minoxidil 5% in the evening before they're going to bed. It might make sense, but on another side, why would you? You know, like, if you're taking orally, it's going through the liver and it's gonna work better, definitely. Unless you're trying to keep like your dose low, maybe that's the right justification. You know, like if you're taking 0.625 milligram of oral minoxidil or 1.25 milligram and you want to have more efficacy, but you don't want to risk side effects, so you might take in the night topical. Maybe this is justification. Another justification could have been that the oral minoxidil is actually lifetime of it, half time of it is about 6 hours only, compared to topical, which stays in the scalp about 20 to 22 hours. So some people taking oral minoxidil twice a day, and some people, again, anecdotally, are saying that they see more like improvement from oral minoxidil when they're taking twice a day as opposed to once a day. So some people take oral minoxidil in the morning and topical minoxidil in the evening, and that's how they try to kind of balance it out. Again, it's, you know, all anecdotal. There is no, you know, documented evidence of anything proving anything, but that's just some people what they do. Apparently oral minoxidil also boosts melanin production and hair follicle. Possible, I guess. Watching from India, hey, man, how are you doing there? I have heavily sites on Fin. Okay. Heavy sites on Fin, even 0.25 milligram 3 times a week. What do you recommend? I would actually recommend to go ahead, check your blood properly. Test your blood. Go to see a cardiologist, not cardiologist. How is this doctor name? The one that's checking your hormone profile, and basically, I'm almost sure the side effects not because of the finasteride. I mean, the finasteride is lowering your DHT, and because of the DHT is like too low, you experience side effects. But I think the actual reason for this is your other, like, you know, hormones. You might have basically a hormonal imbalance. So yeah, there you go, endocrinologist. Thank you so much, Neil. So you might have a hormonal imbalances. It's so basically if you're lowering DHT, kind of throws out you know, everything, because DHT is really potent. It's really strong. It's really androgenic. It's much more. It's much stronger, much more potent than, for example, testosterone, up to like 4 times. So if you're decreasing it, if your body relies heavily on DHT because it's very androgenic, and then you're decreasing it, and then you experience all of the side effects, it might be you have some other, too much estrogen, too low testosterone, or, you know, the ratio is bad or stuff like that. So I would suggest just to go and see endocrinologist and take it from there. That would be that's what I would personally do, because having side effects at 0.25 milligram 3 times a week, it's very unlikely. Definitely not like, you know, as a finasteride. It's not even reducing this much DHTs. It's like a, yeah, definitely something else. Hair chemist David Muse and other YouTubers talking heads all use oral minoxidil with great effect. Oh yeah, well, now I'm taking it. Yeah. How did you get prescription of oral minoxidil in the UK? My GP said they couldn't prescribe it. It's actually really difficult, especially in the UK, to get your hands on oral minoxidil. I mentioned in one of my videos how I get my hands on it, and it's not via prescription. I got it from a person who bought it for himself, and he decided not to take it. He got it through prescription. He decided not to take it, and he was kind enough to ask me, do you want? I said yes. That's it. So yeah, but I was actually looking recently into where I could legally get a proper prescription for dermatologist or trichologist or hair transplant surgeon in the UK. And there are a couple of options. There are a couple of trichologists, a couple of dermatologists, and a couple of hair transplant surgeons. So yeah, I would suggest just to dig deep, and I'm currently working on the video. Once the video is up, I'm gonna just, you know, stay tuned. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you know when this video is coming up. But yeah, if you want, just dig deep. Ask any dermatologist, trichologist in your area, send them email and ask for it, and don't schedule any appointments. Just email, and that's it. You have to go through, you know, through the numbers to find it. No, You weren't gray, my friend. Oh, the guy in the document had no gray hair after minoxidil. Do you know if he dyed his hair on the minoxidil? Okay, I see. Is oral minoxidil 2.5 alternate days safe? My systolic is 107, diastolic is 72. I don't think it's a bad blood pressure. Let me check. Ideal. I think. Hold on, let me see. There was a calculator, very nice one. I really like this. In the NHS here in the UK. 107 and 72. There you go. It says it's let me switch it for you guys. It says it's ideal blood pressure. It's within normal range, so you can it can potentially decrease both. You know, systolic and diastolic, you know, blood pressure, the numbers itself, but it's a pretty big gap. You can go all the way to 90 and 60 and be still in ideal. So, you know, I would take every day because, like I said before, the oral minoxidil half-life is only 6 hours as opposed to topical, so you really need to take it every single day. Like if topical, you can use it only once a day as opposed to twice a day. Oral minoxidil, ideally, I think even ideally should be twice a day, but definitely once a day. Every 2 days, it might be not that, you know, great of a thing, or you might not experience this much of a, you know, efficacy of it. But yeah, again, I'm not a doctor. I cannot say you it's okay or bad. Speak to your doctor about it. My test is 520, estradiol is 22. Is it okay? Can I start finasteride? Speak to your doctor about it. I'm not gonna be giving medical advice. I'm just sharing my experience, and I'm basically sharing my observations. That's all I do here, my friend. And I can give you my suggestions what I could possibly do. 0.2 is like decreasing the HT to 60%, while 1 milligram is 70%. I tried to go to reach multiple endocrinologists. They didn't even want to do tests. They just get off the fin. This is a very unprofessional, like, what the hell. Yes, and yes, you're right. 0.2, it's not 60%, it's like 50 something, but yeah, 0.25 milligrams still decreasing pretty good amount of DHT, but you said you're not taking it every day, you're taking it every 3 days, so this every 3 times a week, I think. So this is like your DHT suppression going to be much lower, because you need to, the way I understand, you need to reach certain, you know, yeah, whatever. Do you cut Lonitin pill to 2.5 from higher dose? Yes, actually I've got 5 milligram tablets and I'm cutting it in half, so I got 2.5. All right, let's have a look at a couple of more before wrapping it up. I got a few more little ones just for fun. I actually had more. I think I had like 15 studies, but I truly really didn't have like so much free time to spend on it. And yeah, and to be honest, all the data is pretty much similar. The way I look at it is like, from all of this that I read, it's pretty much almost all of them are discussing kind of the same things. Oh, this one was interesting. Characterizations and management of hypertrichosis induced by low dose oral minoxidil in the treatment of hair loss. So if you're the one that got the hypertrichosis, and that's like kind of a little tiny observation, what you know, what basically they did, mainly female. They had 155 patients, 98 female and 7 male, and they've been taking oral minoxidil between 0.25 to 5 milligram daily. So again, probably women on the lower side, men probably 2.5 and 5 milligram. And the mean time between the start of low dose oral minoxidil and the appearance of hypertrichosis was 2.05 months. So the range between like 2 weeks and 6 months. So yeah, between 2 weeks and 6 months, people started noticing hypertrichosis occurring in the first 3 months in 92% of the patients. This mean hypertrichosis was 5.68. Higher dose were associated with higher hypertrichosis. The most affected areas were the sideburns in 85% patients, and temples. I think they're talking about this, you know, connection where is the eyebrow and the temple peak. temples in 77 patients, so 73%, followed by the arms and upper lip and chin. So again, if you're women, of course, it can be pain in the ass, but for men, to be honest, this kind of like, okay, maybe in this area, but you can pluck it out. But anyways, hypertrichosis degree was generally mild, so it was not really something crazy like you probably saw on some other, you know, videos or people posting on Reddit that they got like became a werewolf. This is very rare. This is extremely rare, and not like I've seen even on a Reddit one post recently. One guy saying, "Well, why are you guys even using oral minoxidil? Is you know, you're just gonna become a werewolf. So much body hair and everything, and blah blah blah. Like a hypertrichosis is too much." And people are actually like falling for it, but they are forgetting, okay, this is one person only. And according to all the data we got so far, even as high as 5 milligram dose, in general, in an average, if you're taking 5 milligram dose, you have about 50% chance to get hypertrichosis. It means the other 50% of people, they don't have hypertrichosis. It means they don't have any body hair, extra body hair growth, from even as high as 5 milligram. So it's not everyone, and if you decrease the dose to 2.5 or even 1.25, it's going to be even less chances. So not everyone going to be having these problems, and even if they have, this problem is really not that big usually. So yeah, in this respect, 41 patients, 39% of them were not concerned about it and did not have their hair removed. So it means they just, yeah, whatever, 3 hairs growing like for me, extra, and that's it. In the remaining 61% of the unwanted hair was removed by laser. 61% laser, 43% waxing, 9%. Hold on, no. So yeah, by laser 43%, by waxing 9%, by shaving 4%, and depilatory cream 4%, or plucking 1%. Oh, interesting. I was expecting more people gonna be plucking it. That's what I do. 24 patients, 23%, required decreasing the dose of low-dose oral minoxidil because of the hypertrichosis, improving in 83% of them with the low dose. Only 4 female patients, 4%, discontinued the treatment because of hypertrichosis. So again, for female, and imagine, even if female, only 4% of female stop the treatment because of that. It's really not that bad, especially for men. So yeah, and yeah, that's like a place where they're showing what is the maximum, like normal places where they usually get. 73% temples, so yeah, like I said, this kind of like a connection. Sideburns, 81. Personally, again, for men, I don't think sideburns, especially people that are, you know, growing a beard, or they can grow a beard. I cannot. You know, the sideburns is really like, it can be even a plus, it's gonna be thicker there, so you know, it's fine. Forehead maybe lowering hairline. Prone over here, so this is area I think everyone has to pluck there anyways. 20% only cheeks, upper lip, chin. Oh, upper lip 51%. Again, for males, chin, upper lip doesn't matter, sideburns doesn't matter. Maybe cheeks, and maybe this, like maybe a little bit forehead. Prone anyways, everyone is like, so again, the way I look at it is really not that big of a deal, especially for men. For women, maybe yes. Yeah, so proportion of patients who developed hypertrichosis in each facial area. Colors represent most in red, and moderate in yellow, and less in green. Frequently affected areas. Other affected areas were the arms, 63% of the patients. Dorsum of the hands, 9%, legs, 4%, anterior trunks, 3%, and back, 1%. Yeah, did someone said, was it here in the live stream, or I read it online, that people are worried that, oh, I'm gonna grow my back hair super long, like because of oral? No. All right. Yeah. Let's have a look at the other one. What was interesting here? Oh, this one was from one dermatologist, if I recall correctly, and he just he was kind of funny because excuse me, he's saying that he was really excited when they started the topical version in 1988, the topical minoxidil, because, you know, people were like, you know, taking 10 to 40 milligrams on a higher dose, and it was not the best drug to take it for, you know, for hair. So everyone was excited, it was topical, grows more hair, it's fine. And now he's like he finds it funny because now there is more and more studies showing that the low dose of oral minoxidil can actually be pretty effective and actually can be really good, you know, potential solution for you know, hair loss in general as well. And he's like laughing, I would never thought I can go back to what we initially didn't want to. And it's just like a small article with his observations and his experience, what he's prescribing in his practice. But for me, what caught my interest, he says there's 6 practical advantages to low dose of oral minoxidil for alopecia, so compared to topical. Is convenience, cosmesis, cost, co-therapy, feasibility, because of co-therapy visibility, so you can take it with other drugs and it's easier. You don't need to apply anything topically. Compliance, basic, I think that this is the number 1 basically should be, and crown efficacy. I guess it works better in the crown in his observation. But yeah, so for me personally, compliance I think should be the number 1, because I don't remember where I saw the statistic, but something like over 90% of people, like the reason why people are stopping topical minoxidil is like convenience, and over 90% of people stopped topical minoxidil because of the convenience, because they just fed up applying it on their scalp, and there you go, oral minoxidil solves this problem. It's just easy to pop in the pill, especially if you, like me, taking Finasteride already, just another pill together and that's it. Cost, interesting factor, because it's much cheaper, especially if you're buying like a bigger tablets, like 5 milligram, and you quartering to 1.25 or even half, like I do. And you know, it can cost what, like in England here, like what, 40-50, you know, pounds per pack, which can last like 4 months, I think, or maybe how much was it? No, I think, yeah, about 4 or 5 months, 5 milligram, a pack of 5 milligram tablets, and you know, so much cheaper than topical minoxidil. And yeah, convenience, like I said, it's very cheap. Anyways, very cheap, very easy to apply. So I found it interesting. And by the way, let me know in the comments, guys, in the live chat, what do you think? Why would you, if you are considering, why would you consider it to start oral minoxidil? Why you just don't want to use topical if you're not using it yet? Or if you're using it right now, why you're considering to use oral? I'll be curious to see what, you know, what is your perspective and reality. Turning into Teen Wolf. Oh, grow a hair bush down there. Ooh, interesting. If that's something you're into, I guess it's might be a plus. Another one, efficacy and safety of oral minoxidil of 5 milligram once daily in the treatment of male pattern baldness in with androgenetic alopecia, obviously. Abstract, couple of things. So yeah, in general results, there was a significant increase in total hair counts from baseline at 12 weeks and 24 weeks. And photographic assessments of the vertex area by an expert panel revealed 100% of improvement. 100% improvement with 5 milligram. With 43% of patients showing excellent improvement. The frontal area also showed a significant response, but less than that of the vertex area. Common side effects were hypertrichosis, 93% of patients, and pedal edema, 10% of people. No serious cardiovascular adverse event and abnormal laboratory findings were observed. Again, important. No serious cardiovascular adverse were observed. Again, we can argue as long as we can. There is not enough data to saying that it's not possible, but there is data saying that it didn't happen yet. So, you know, take your own risk. This is the only like place that I not necessarily disagree with Kevin, but it's like, you know, you just have, you know, everyone have to judge for themselves basically. A couple of another things, hair diameter. Again, remember that other study from 50 microns to 68 microns? Another one, hair diameter significantly increased from baseline by 10.6%, from 58 to 64. So again, at 12 weeks. This is pretty good. Like in just, what, 3 months? 10% increase in like a thickness of the hair. And if you have a lot, if you're a diffuse thinner, for example, this might be like a dramatic change because you have a lot of hair, but all of it's just miniaturized. And if all of this 10, 20, 30,000 hairs gonna increase their density just by 10% in general, boom, full head of hair. So yeah, I'm always jealous for the diffuse thinners. And yeah, of course, even more efficacy, I mean, thickening, what is it, by 15% at 24 weeks, so 6 months. And I would, argue it's possibly even more thickening would happen after 1 year or even 2 years of the treatment. So, and here's some interesting pictures. Vertex, frontal area, 2 patients. Patient A, B, C, D, E, baseline, and 12 weeks. A, B, and GH. A, B, and GH. And 24 after initial treatment with oral minoxidil 5 mg once daily. Great improvements. Even in, like, look at the hairline, like it filled in, no thinning there. Crown over, of course, like I said, these people, they have a lot of thin miniaturized hair, and this hair just got thicker, and that's all it takes to make this, dramatic improvement. So yeah, I think it's enough to go. I've got still quite a couple of studies. Actually, I've got quite a few studies that I think is, I mean, all the data, to be honest, is like really similar. It's pretty much almost the same. They are assessing and they're all finding similar thing, that the higher the dose of oral minoxidil, the more side effects you experience, but also the more efficacy. And women normally are taking lower dose of oral minoxidil, and while men are taking usually higher. And what higher, they're usually taking 2.5 milligram and 5 milligram per day. And yeah, nobody ever found any severe like adverse effects, that relates to your heart, so you can potentially die. Again, the sample size is really small. The actual studies are not the best, so we can argue that it still can happen, because it did happen in a very small, what was it, like 1 or 2% of people only at doses between 10 and 40 milligrams. But as a general rule of thumb, it's pretty safe. Again, don't quote me on this, it's just my opinion. This is what I just showed you guys, and personally, I feel great. I've been taking oral minoxidil for a bit more than 4 months, I think now, or maybe, well, actually, I think it's exactly 4 months now. I started taking it after my second transplant, and while it's difficult to assess the actual efficacy, because I had 2 transplants and especially second one, and kind of started growing everything together, but nonetheless, certain areas like my actual crown, where is the actual whorl, was not touched with the transplant at all. And I'm actually documenting this specific area quite properly, on my oral minoxidil updates. And also I'm talking about what kind of, experiences I got, side effects, etc. And I didn't experience any side effects, any bad side effects. The only thing, slightly, like few hairs here and there, got darker a bit between my eyebrows and my temple points. And really that's it, to be honest. And I'm taking 2.5 milligrams. So yeah, I'm gonna keep taking it, and yeah, as long as I feel great. If I notice something is happening, going on, something bad, something with the heart or something, I will definitely right away stop it. I, not a fan of dying. But yeah, I'm not by the way, I'm not saying you guys you have to start this drug. Definitely always, first of all, start with topical minoxidil. Majority of people gonna be doing really well. There is no studies that are showing that the topical is better than oral. We got only one study that shows that compares 1 milligram to 5%, and it's only in women. It's a very small amount of, and the actual results are the same. The results are pretty much the same. It's just more women responded to oral minoxidil compared to topical. Of course, we can argue with the higher dose, like 2.5 or even 5 milligram, it might be better efficacy, but again, we don't know. So it's up to you to decide whether you want to try or not, but I suggest to try first topical, 5%, add possibly microneedling, and it's probably going to be more than enough for vast majority of people. If you've been for many years, like 5-10 years already on this regimen, maybe then it's not a bad idea to start kind of considering it, or if you really want to experiment, but then go, you know, seek professional opinion with, like, from a doctor, good dermatologist, trichologist, the ones that are actually prescribing it. And yeah, speak to them, and see what they say. I've been actually chatting with one trichologist here in London area. She's actually super expensive, so I'm never even gonna be bothered to ask her, you know, prescription. But she said that she doesn't mind to prescribe it to me, but she would need to do a proper, you know, extensive checks, like my heart and, you know, blood pressure and everything, check my, you know, family history and whatnot. So something to consider, you know, if you planning. Just don't just, you know, dive straight into it. Try topical first, and most probably gonna be fine. And of course, you know, Finasteride. And yeah, guys, let's get some final questions you've got. More than happy to answer to you in the live chat right now. Go ahead. I'll give you 2-3 minutes. Type your questions. I'm gonna answer, and I'm gonna say goodbye for now. Gonna go ahead to rest. I'm really tired, been a really long day, and my throat hurts because I've been talking for how long I've been talking right now? 1.5 hours. Damn. What about topical and forehead wrinkles? Scott, from my understanding, this is pure anecdotal. I've never seen in any kind of study even mentioning this kind of, like, that there are like wrinkles happening. And and the same thing goes to like eye bags, that some people saying, oh, you, like, you know, developing eye bags. Personally, even someone told me recently, like a couple of months ago, that since I started taking Oral Minoxidil, my eye bags got like a darker and it's more visible. But then I went on holidays and I was sleeping plenty of, you know, I had plenty of time of sleep. I had like no stress, relax and chill basically. And I'm also, you know, trying to keep my, you know, good skincare routine. And I noticed that my, like, eye bags look so much better than they were like looking a month ago when I basically, you know, my day-to-day life. So I will always relate it to general lifestyle, you know, stress, you know, your nutrition, your like overall diet, the amount of water you're taking, etc. And your genetics. To be honest, at the end of the day, it's genetics. Some people, they just genetically will not develop like this kind of severe, nasty, you know, eye bags. And the same can go to the wrinkles, you know, on the forehead. I seriously doubt you can create extra wrinkles. The only thing that I noticed personally, this is again for me anecdotal and personal, but before my first transplant, so I didn't have the hairline, and before my first transplant, I had like maybe 100 hairs in the forelock and completely bald here. The whole front was like 100% bald. It's like a slick bald, nothing else. I had like however wrinkles I've got right now here on my forehead, if I, like, you know, look up or, you know, put my eyebrows up, I had one extra wrinkle. After my 2 transplants, I noticed it actually recently, purely by mistake, but I looked in the mirror, I made my wrinkle, like I tried to check how many wrinkles I've got and how was the distance, you know, between like the glabella and my hairline. Someone asked me, like, you know, what's the actual distance, and I noticed that I've got one less wrinkle. So the way I attribute it, and I think, and again it's pure speculation, that if you got hair in there, the skin got a bit like I don't know, thicker or something, so there is no so much like wrinkles. But if the area is bigger, it gets, and there is no hair in there, it gets like kind of softer, although it doesn't go along, you know, some other, you know, speculations about, you know, scalp calcification, for example, etc. But it's just something that I noticed. After my 2 transplants, I got less wrinkles. So yeah, and I've been on, I started Minoxidil. I supposed to get another one, so it didn't happen. And I, of course, before my first transplant, I've been on topical Minoxidil for 1 year. I didn't experience any extra wrinkles. So I seriously doubt there is any relation to this. It's just pure anecdotal. People age, they have, you know, different, you know, things in life happening. Where we were, so yeah. And Ferreira, Rolandas, did you only start taking Finasteride and Minoxidil when you had transplant, or did you start earlier? So I started Finasteride about 6 months before my first transplant, And yeah, right now I'm more than two years on 1 milligram per day. And minoxidil, oral minoxidil, and yeah, I just said I had topical minoxidil with microneedling for 1 year before my first transplant. Then I stopped. I didn't come back to it. And now I started oral minoxidil 1 week after my second transplant. So yeah, if you didn't start what your hair loss started, when your hair loss started, why not? I didn't start Finasteride because I was scared, like majority of people. That's why I kind of hate seeing so much hate or so much fear mongering online happening about Finasteride. Just like Kevin Mann, that's why I like his channel, because I was one of them. I was like just too scared and went from Norwood 2.5 when I first 2.53 when I first heard about Finasteride, went all the way to Norwood 5, lost everything, biggest regret of my life. And I still eventually started Finasteride because I didn't want to progress any further to Norwood 6 because I've got potential. Sorry. So yeah, and I'm doing well. Imagine how my hair would be looking like if I would start immediately, as soon as I discovered Finasteride, you know. So probably wouldn't need, maybe I would need small, like a tiny transplant, and that's it. So yeah, just take Finasteride. Will we get any more transplants? I don't know. We will see. My donor is pretty good. I still can get from it at least 2,000 grafts, easy, maybe even 3,000. I think even from occipital area, just from the back, just from that area, I can take another 2,000. Sides are getting already thinned out a little bit, so it has to be a bit careful, because let's be honest, I had 6,500 grafts already extracted. It's a lot of hairs, it's a lot of grafts. But I had a couple of areas of the crown, like here around, that were not touched with the transplant at all, and they're thinning a little bit. There is still a lot of hair. That's why the Dr. Ferreira didn't want to go in, and I said that I'm gonna start oral minoxidil. So we decided, you know what, and it didn't really look that bad, so let's just leave it like that. But it's a very small, like literally this big two, you know, areas. I'm pretty sure it should be fine, but in the future, maybe this area. And my potential, I think, is the overall is Norwood 6. If I stop Finasteride, everything is gonna become Norwood 6. So in this case, definitely then lateral hum's gonna drop a little bit. My crown gonna go a little bit lower. So in this case, I would need more, but hopefully I will not. So yeah, this is my reply. And yeah, I'm not planning ever to get a beard transplant. It's just not worth it. I better keep this donor for my head. You look great. I'm jealous you have solved your baldness. I can't solve mine, too far gone. Well, sorry to hear that, but to be honest, there are always options. Hair system, SMP, you know, partial hair system, partial transplant, or just cover transplant strategically, and create a better density in the front, lower density in the back, and then use concealers. You know, there are different things. For me, density is not perfect, but I'm happy. And now I said to someone I was chatting today, I said, like, listen, the density is not like a perfect, not like I was at 18 or 20 or whatever, but, you know, it's enough. It's enough to create a full head looking head of hair. You know, of course, it's going to be wet or under the direct sun, it's going to be a little bit thinner than it could have been, you know, but I'm not planning to go again and like just keep putting more and more. It's absolutely fine. Like, this is my, you know, opinion. And couple more. Hi, Mr. Rolandis, how long before you saw results with Finasteride? So in the first 6 months, I seen a little bit of stabilization. So I was shedding, let's say, 50, 60, something like that hairs. Then I started shedding 40, 30, like that. Of course, you need to keep in mind, I've been Norwood 5A. So if I'm losing 50 hairs per day, this is a lot of hair because I don't have anything on the top. If I would be having full head of hair, 50 would be nothing because I've got so much hair. Always keep this in mind. So yeah, after 6 months, slight decrease, but after another 8 months, so in total after 14 months, I remember this very, very well, my hair was pretty much stopped. I literally had, I didn't notice any single hair in the shower anywhere. Like literally, whenever I ran through, you know, whatever fingers or in the shower, I don't see a single hair. And it lasted maybe 3-4 months, and then it started maybe like 10 hairs here and there, like very, very minimal. And it's basically like, you know, goes through hair cycles. But to be honest, like That's it. In terms of regrowth, I didn't experience much. It's mainly stabilized my hair loss. It brought back few hairs in my mid scalp here and there, but it didn't thicken, and now Oral Minoxidil is actually doing this job. It's thickening them further, so that's a great boost basically, but nothing drastic or, you know, statistically significant. Hence why I need a transplant. So yeah, Dr. Ferreira did a great job. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Dr. Ferreira is a master. It's like really great, but yeah, but I'm really disappointed with his overall, the way he's handling his business. Of course, I'm not going to be telling how he has to run his business, but some people been telling me and like complaining to me that they're waiting 6 months or 5 months for the online consultation, which is personally is not acceptable. I remember I chose different doctor. I was considering Ximena Villa in Spain, and I chose not to go with her only because they took they were replying to my emails every 3 weeks. So every 3 weeks, like I was like, you know what, with this tempo I'm gonna book a surgery in 5 years. It's unacceptable. So unfortunately he got popular, and he's still doing everything himself. He's doing consultations himself. He's obviously doing the whole surgery himself. So in surgical everything, he's excellent. He's perfect. But this other part can be like really annoying. So yeah, but you know, there is nobody perfect in this life, I guess. Anyways, I think that's it. It's time to wrap up this video. Thanks so much, guys, for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe if you haven't already, ring that notification bell so you know when more videos or live streams coming up. And yeah, of course, drop the comments down below if you have any more questions. I'm gonna be happy to answer as always, as I always do. And I'll see you in the next one. I'm gonna be posting really soon. Oh, by the way, I got pictures from Dr. Ferreira on my second transplant. Actually, you know what? Before I saw some people already drop straight away, but you know, let me show you something. Let me show some nice pictures that they're gonna maybe do a video really soon. I'm gonna show you one picture, maybe two. Okay, let me show you one picture. Boom. This was my mid scalp and partially crown before my second surgery. God damn it, it was so bold. When I saw this picture today, when I received this picture, I was like, what? It was that bad? And look right now. Hold on, let me change the camera right now. It's almost perfect. And I'm only 4 months after my surgery. Well, about 4 months and 1 week or something like that. So it's a surgery plus oral minoxidil, but damn, that was bold. As you see, I had a lot of miniaturized hair, but yeah. So I'm gonna be analyzing, going through these pictures, and basically even reacting, because even things like have a look here, temple peaks, they were properly gone, man. They were like very thin. Maybe here better. Look, like they were really thin, and right now. If you look right now, oh, yeah, let's see this one. It's like so much more structured. Of course, again, it's still not even end result. It's just the beginning of the transplant result, and you know, oral minoxidil, like combination. So yeah, but I mean, I kind of knew that this is gonna happen, and I was expecting it. But man, when I saw these pictures today, like I just went through a couple of pictures. I was like, what the hell? It was that bad? So yeah. So yeah, stay tuned for this video. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. I'm gonna have some more time, and hopefully I'm gonna upload tomorrow or Friday maybe, and it's gonna be interesting. And for now, thanks much for watching. See you next time. Peace out.